Okay, I think my audio works. Maybe it's Chris' microphone.
Yeah, your audio works. I can hear
Ah,
you
okay.
Yeah, we can hear
Great.
you.
very well.
Because I was seeing Chris' lips moving, but I couldn't see him.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Cool. Sorry, I have no idea what's going on with Zoom today, but all of my audio and all of my my driver information got reset.
No worries. I was just getting crazy with Pulse audio settings.
Yep, story of my life. This is what you get when you work on an open source Linux project with a bunch of Arch Linux users trying to use Zoom every day.
Surprisingly, it works almost all the times.
Yeah. So yeah, what I was saying was I'm happy to go through the agenda unless anybody else has some has a lot of excitement to go through and read for everyone today. And with that being said, there we go. A nice square screen. And let's get started.
Sorry, Chris, I was talking. Yeah, I offered myself before, but I will totally let you do it. So please feel free to change.
Oh no, I would love for you to do it. I have another meeting after this, and I have to eat breakfast still. So if you can do it, I will turn my camera off and actually eat breakfast for the first half of the call.
That's good. I will screenshot then.
Yeah,
Can you just stop?
Yeah, I will stop. Thank you for helping.
You're welcome. Everyone, I'm not showing my video just because my room is a mess. So should I zoom in a bit?
Yes, a lot, please.
Why this doesn't work? Oh yeah, okay. Okay. Are we already recording? Yes. Welcome everybody to this new, exciting, amazing Falco Community call of the 1st of July of this year. And what do we have? Please add your names to the who joined list in the HackMD. If you don't know where the HackMD is, please someone send it to the chat or go to Falco Security/community on GitHub. It's important to have your name there so that we can know who participated and create a backlog. On this week's highlights, we have finally the fix merged on ICP usages for gRPC. It was related to our usage of the streaming services in gRPC that was basically not implemented very carefully. So we changed how it's implemented a bit, and now it's also bi-directional. So we have different modes. Everything has been updated on the Go client, on the Falco exporter, and all the other tools that use it. So this is important and will be included in the next release, and will also be a breaking change because the API of the gRPC server changes. But the clients are already updated, at least the Go client. I don't remember if the Rust client is updated in the Python, but the Go client, which is the one that most people use, is updated. Next thing is GitLab is integrating with Falco. This is another very interesting use case for the Falco community and for the project itself, because now we have, another major implementation of Falco in the wild. They have a very good set of specifications and all the reasoning behind this in the link that there's posted in the week's highlight section. On the agenda, I'm starting because the first point is mine. Please continue adding all your points and ideas to the list if you want. The first one is, well, we are not just C++ project and maintaining all the pieces. We also maintain a very small infrastructure on the CNCF cluster that allows us to have GitHub automation and all the services we need to help people using Falco and deploy it. So we have a small Kubernetes cluster on the CNCF infrastructure that needed some care because basically the Cilium networking wasn't working, and that is fixed. So everyone that contributes should start seeing an increased response time in Poiana, our Pro implementation, and all the other bots. This was important for someone, but not for everyone here.
How did we fix the Cilium CNI implementation? I'm just curious because of the way that Packet does the IP address schema.
I have a very detailed markdown file I'm submitting to the testing repository. I just didn't find the time to package everything together yet. But in poor words, Cilium now has, like with 1.8.0, if I recall correctly, now has very easy way to deploy everything by just applying a YAML file that deploys the Cilium operator that goes to every node and installs the binaries and setups the network seeds and everything. So basically just applying that to make it work. It was a bit of effort for me, but I did this. So it was a bit of effort for me because I didn't know what was going on. I mean, I didn't even know where things were in that cluster. And that's why I asked Chris to help me document in the cluster. And we are having a session together in the next weeks to document that even more so that other contributors can step in and help us with managing updates, managing outages and everything. So that's it. Did I reply to your question, Chris?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Another thing still on Poiana and infrastructure is that we are still missing it on Falco Sidekick. Falco Sidekick joined the Falco Security Organization a while ago, but we don't have it yet under our beloved bot, and we need to do that because of all our we need to enforce all our community policies. So we just need to do it. There are some issue linked, and if anyone wants to go and do that, it will be very helpful.
Yeah, I could do it. I opened the issues, Laura.
Thank you.
I would have been interested in also hearing what Thomas, which is basically the main maintainer of Falco Sidekick, thinks about it. But also, my opinion, I mean, probably in the community is very well known. In my opinion, is that all the repos under the Falco Security Organization should have the same workflow, which is enforced and ensured by Poiana. And also, by the way, about this topic, I don't know if we want to discuss this right now or maybe another time. We also have other repos like Katacoda examples or Katacoda courses, things like that are basically not maintained anymore. We don't have owners. They seems like a bit abandoned, and this does not look good to me. So Poiana also owners file, all the policies that it puts in place helps us as maintainer to do not lose the grip with projects. So I put these 2 lines here just to remember everyone about the fact that Poiana stops the drama.
Would it make sense to move some of these legacy repositories to the evolution repository as subdirectories so that we still can maintain the work, but we start to clean up the amount of repositories that the Falco Security Org has under its name?
It's definitely something we could do. I'm not sure that it will work, Chris, for every repository, but as I said, I've not looked deeply into the repository. For example, the Katacoda one, I don't know it. I don't know if it's linked to Katacoda in some way, how the whole thing is done. So we should look deeply into it. And for sure, the first step is assigning some owners to the repo too.
We should also remember that we can archive repos.
We can also sorry, Laura.
We can also archive repos if we don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, we are a community. We are here to
They're
decide
gonna stay
together.
there.
Yeah, I don't know if it's something that we think it's valuable. We can maybe migrate it into the evolution. In other case, maybe we may not do it.
I think it depends on what we want to do. We want to continue. I mean, the first thing we want to do is keep the code so that we can reference to it in the future, and that's why we want to, continue having it. So that's why Chris said move it to evolution. But evolution to me also sounds something like we want to also continue doing, right? We want to move it there and then maybe, maintain it. And if we decided we want to maintain it, personally at this point, I don't know if I want it to go anywhere. But if we decided we don't want to maintain it, I think we should just archive it. On the other hand, if we want to decide that we want to maintain it, but it's not the time right now, we can archive and then unarchive in 6 months.
So I have a
My
question.
opinion.
So if we archive it, does that mean that, like, right now, if I was maybe referencing the repository from a different tool somehow, if we archive it, would that break the reference for the other tool?
Yes.
Okay, and then you said we can unarchive it later if we decide to?
Yeah.
So my thought here would be there's kind of two options. The first one is just to archive it, and then if somebody mentions that they need it, we can unarchive it. And then the other option would be to create a fourth section of the evolution repository, and maybe we can call it something like legacy. And that would be just a place for us to, like, before we archive something, we can move it to legacy and see how many people use it. Maybe give it 30 days, 60 days or something. And then if it doesn't look like anybody's referencing it, we can just archive it to keep the code base clean.
Chris, I don't know if I agree just because of a practical problem. Imagine that I'm not saying, imagine that we want to archive like Falco Sidekick, right? Because Thomas doesn't want to work on it or something. It has issues, it has pull requests, it has maybe things that links to it. And if we just move the folder and the commits, it's gonna be work to do, while just pressing a button or, telling GitHub to move the repo somewhere else, it's a lot easier from, just.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and then you
also,
retain all the issues and all of the.
Yeah, in fact.
I would go with a mixed solution, Chris. What you propose, I like very much what you propose to create like a demotion mechanism, the same way that we have a promotion one for repositories. But also the point that Lorenzo brought up is important. I mean, where to put the issues. We need some place to advertise the community. Hey, there's this repo. We don't have maintainers. We don't have time to maintain it. If someone
What
wants
some
to pick up
people, what some projects do, they just create like another organization, like Falco Security Archive or Falco Security Incubator or something like that, and we can move there the old repos that we don't want to have in Falco Security or that we want to promote or demote there.
Yeah, but still, the problem of having maintenance and someone that.
Yeah, but that is easy because, like, let's say that we like, as an example, Falco Sidekick. Let's say we don't want it anymore for some reason. We just go to the repo settings and then we transfer the repo to somewhere else, and it keeps all the webhooks integration, all the pull requests, all the issues, everything is migrated automatically in 1 second by GitHub.
Can I make another suggestion? I do like the idea of having a different organization. The only problem is that I feel like that kind of puts us back to where we were with legacy, which is it will require work. Somebody has to manually push it. And then if people start opening up issues in the other org, do we start cross-referencing them to the new org? Do we bring it back?
Yeah,
Again, it seems like overhead. One of the things that we've done in Kubernetes, and this was the inspiration for how we manage the API, is we have certain stages of how we deprecate certain parts of the project. So we could add at the, if you go to the GitHub repo, there's the title at the very top of the GitHub repo where you can add maybe one sentence about the project.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
We could put a very large, by this time, 6 months from today, we will be archiving this repo. If you are using this and you have read this, please respond to this issue so that we know that you are
Yeah,
using this repository,
I
and
like
then
this.
That's a
if we
good
don't
idea.
have any feedback after, let's say, 6 months or 4 months or however
Yeah.
long we decide, we go ahead and archive it and hope for the best.
Yeah, I like this idea. Also, we can in GitHub now we can pin issues to make an issue more important than others, more visible than others. We can maybe write, look, Chris, a document about this process that you just described, the deprecation model. Let's call it like this in this moment, and then write an issue and link it in the title. In 30 days, we are going to archive this. If you have something contrary, if you want to volunteer to maintain it for some reason, just
Yeah.
Let us know.
raise your hands, both your hands.
Yeah, and that is
I
maybe 5 minutes of work per project, and then we are able to keep our org clean, and we can always undo it if we need to.
Okay.
I want to add just a thought about the evolution repository because I worked a bit on it more there, just because people expect that thing works there. And I think if we try to archive stuff inside the evolution repository, we just make more confusion to people. And
I agree.
and also it's very important that we find maintainers for this stuff. For example, currently the only maintainer that is working a bit on the evolution repository is Max Joe, but still we have a lot of things to do and to fix there. I am pretty sure there are a lot of examples that are not updated, and this can create the problem to people that approach the evolution repository for the first time, or they are just looking for an example. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Sorry for the diverging into this discussion at the call, but we reached I think that we reached a consensus, right? So let me know if I understood correctly. We will create an issue for the repository that we want to archive, the repository that we don't have maintainers, and we will set up a deprecation part in the contributing guidelines that says if something is not anymore, when we announce that we are going to deprecate something, if no one stands up to maintain it in the next 60 days, we're going to archive it, right?
I
Yeah.
agree.
Okay, Chris, can I write in the document that you will take care of drafting this little section in the contributing guideline of Falco Security Organization, and maybe change the titles of some repos?
I would. I'm happy to.
If you don't have time, if you don't have time, I'll do it. No worries. I was just asking.
I was going to suggest, Leo. What I would like to do is, I don't know if it should go in the contributing guidelines or if it should go in evolution, but to have like a template that we use for everything that we archive, that basically says, here's the documentation, here's the expectations, and it looks the same for every project. I'm happy to write the first example template, and then we can just copy and paste that over to the repositories.
We
So
can,
maybe
Chris, if we put your template into the .github repository of Falco Security, it will work for all the repos there. So we can use it whenever we want to deprecate it.
And then I think what we should do is on the next call, if we can come to the call prepared with all of the repos we want to deprecate.
Sorry, Chris, can you repeat? Sorry.
On next week's call, let's have a list of all of the repositories we would like to deprecate.
Perfect. We will take care of that.
Yeah, I like this. I think this works well.
Let's move on. Sorry for diverging the call, Lore.
You are totally good. Thanks for your contribution. Chris,
Yeah.
CNCF help desk. You added this.
Okay. Hold on. Let me put down my breakfast.
You want us to wait? Okay, we'll move on with other points.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
So I want to give everybody on the project kind of an update about the CNCF in general and how us as a project can be more effective here. So for those of you that don't know, the previous executive director of the CNCF is moving on to a different project. This happened over the past, I think, 30 to 60 days. There was an announcement, and just recently, a really, really wonderful person named Priyanka has joined as the new executive director. The executive director is effectively the big boss at the tippy top. And I had a meeting with her yesterday, and we talked about Falco, and she was very excited because Falco is gaining so much momentum, and we're starting to build a healthy community like the call we're on now. But in general, the CNCF is here to enable this project and to give us the tools and the resources we need to be successful. So one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up is we're looking at bringing in more resources to Falco in the future somehow to help with things like marketing, like with events, to help with planning and infrastructure behind the scenes. So what I would like to do, and this is a homework item for myself, is I would like to collect a list of active Falco maintainers and get all of the Falco maintainers access to the CNCF help desk so that we can begin to leverage more of their resources as we as a project grow and expand. This can be everything from help with the Falco website. This can be t-shirts for a meetup that you will be going to in 4 years when the pandemic is over. This could be everything from getting AWS, GKE, a packet cluster set up. But ultimately, we have an opportunity here to kind of reset a lot of our policy as a project with how we integrate with the CNCF. And I believe the CNCF help desk is the best place to do that. So if you want to add your name below that little comment here, I don't have my browser open right now, but if you would like to add your name right here, feel free to, and I will put your name in your email, and I will send out an email to the CNCF requesting access to the CNCF help desk. And this is just something that's a little more formal than messaging somebody from the CNCF on Slack or sending them an email. It creates something that we as a project can make into our pipeline here. So feel free to let me know.
Thanks.
Okay, so the next one is a little bit more exciting.
Wait,
what's that?
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So if possible, can I maybe do a screen share?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to be trying to set up a screen share before I share my screen, but I will kind of explain what it is I would like to show you. So there was a discussion in the Falco Slack the other day about interactive, about having Falco trigger an alert for every interactive command that is executed within a cluster. And I started to look through the Kubernetes code base and started to understand how kubectl exec and kubectl attach enable you to effectively attach to a running container. And I found some libraries used in Go that do similar things and allow you to create a TTY. And naturally, this was just very interesting to me. And I found another project called Go TTY. And I think we as a project could potentially do something very interesting with Falco and Kubernetes using the Kubernetes cluster that Lore had mentioned earlier. So without further ado, here is my screen share. And I'm sorry it's not on a square screen, but I wanted to do a split screen here to show everyone kind of what we're doing. There we go. I can move this thing now. Okay, so one second. Can everyone see both of my terminals?
I can see them, but I don't know if it's a square monitor.
It's not the square monitor.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. Okay. So if you look on the left side, we have localhost on port 1313. And if you look on the right side, we have localhost on port 1314. So the left side is running a TTY using a JavaScript library that all it is doing is just getting read-only the logs from a text file on the host. So Falco is running on the host right now it's running with systemd, and it logs to var log falco.log. And all this browser on the left is doing is it's just echoing those it's just tailing those log files. So you run a program, it creates a web server, and then you give it a command, and that command is tail -f falco.log. Now on the right, in this example, we have just a bash shell, but this could be a container. In fact, let's do a container really quick. So right now, instead of running bash, I'm going to run docker run it busybox --rm so that it cleans up after itself. And if we refresh the page, sorry. There you go. You can see now that if I do anything malicious on the left side, we're actually able to get Falco logs coming out of the host system. So I think what we would potentially be able to do would be a couple of things if we decided to use the Kubernetes cluster in falco.org for this type of environment. The first thing I think we would be able to do, obviously, is create an easy place for people to test rules. And creating an easy place for people to be able to demo Falco using the latest version. The beauty of this is that all of the components we have running here are components the community is already building. So if we have a Falco container that logs to a log file, we have solved the left side of the screen. And if we have a pod in Kubernetes that is unprivileged and does not have access to any of the host namespaces, we have a very safe and secure interactive place for people to violate Falco rules in the right screen. And we can begin to edit the config map perhaps, or edit rules. And there's just a lot we can do here. If you look, OPA has a similar playground on their website where you can evaluate OPA policy, and it'll give you an output, and you can see the input, and then you can write the policy over here. And they have like different examples, some of which are like very simple, and some of which are very like complicated. I think in the future, as we look at getting more resources, having something like this for falco.org could create a good place for the community and for other folks to begin using and understanding Falco, using the core building blocks that we have created, and some type of solution like this. So this was just a proof of concept. It took me maybe 15 minutes to set this up, but I just wanted to show people that it is possible to use GoTTY and a JavaScript library to get read-only events from Falco and be able to interact with Falco pretty easily in a browser. I spent about 5 minutes looking at GoTTY and the server implementation, and it uses the exact same libraries that Falco Cuddle uses to generate TLS. So we could even use the TLS certificates generated by Falco Cuddle to TLS encrypt these two different servers on falco.org if we wanted to. So that was my demo. It happened as I was waiting for a call with Loris yesterday, but I figured it would be nice to share with people so that they could begin to think about different implementations and how that might work.
That's very nice. I believe that having something where people can just at least test the rules as a playground, it's very valuable, because effectively it's what stops people from, in some cases, from actually contributing to those. And I mean, it's just very useful. So thanks.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be useful, and I think there might be maybe 1 week of 1 or 2 weeks of setting it up, and then if we set it up correctly, it should almost run itself. Like, we shouldn't really have to do anything else to it because we're already cutting the release. All we have to do is roll the deployment in Kubernetes. It'll pull the latest container image, and
Nice.
we can just have Falco running in production and people can go and interact with it. And we know if the pod on the right is running in an isolated environment, that's almost in a weird way a testament to our ability to, like, we're almost encouraging people to come hack us, which I think is kind of exciting because you'll be able to see Falco alert if people start doing things malicious. Like, we might even want to do a capture the flag, or even like on day 1, we could expose like the host network namespace and see if people start sniffing TCP packets on the host network to get the API server information and see Falco alert for it. Like, there might be really cool, exciting things we could do here.
And we can improve rules then.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is, yeah. The purpose is very cool because we also get an environment that's a bit more high traffic to play with, and we can contribute more interesting things to Falco.
It also gives us a reason to host a production Falco environment.
Exactly.
Which I think would give every maintainer in the part of the community here valuable insight into what it's like to host Falco in production.
Yeah, good, thank you. What's next? Let me screen share again.
Next is it's me again.
Oh, it's you again.
So internally, we have been talking about this idea, and so I wanted to bring it up with the other folks from the community and see what people think. We decided to schedule our next release for July 16th. It will be a month late, but it will be the next big Falco release with a lot of very important features. What I think would be helpful at this point, we've gone through, I think, 4 or 5 releases since we've kind of reimagined the release process. I think as a community, doing release planning after a release, as well as a release retro, I think could be helpful for us to kind of continue to scope the higher level vision of the Falco project and the Falco pipeline. So after July 16th, I would like to propose a once a month, 2-hour-long release review and a release planning call for the community. Maybe the day after the release or the day after the Wednesday call, or we could even replace the Wednesday call with an extra hour before or an extra hour later. However we want to do it, I just wanted to see what folks think about doing kind of a retro and a grooming session on a monthly basis after our scheduled releases.
I like this idea, Chris. I thought a bit about it. I just some thoughts. I'm not sure it's gonna work if we do it the day after the release, but because maybe we don't have the day after a release, we don't have any vision on the next month. Since we release on a fixed schedule, one release at month at the middle of the month, maybe doing the grooming session the first of the month, for example. So when we are 2 weeks after the last release and 2 weeks before the next one, maybe in that situation we can have a more broader vision about what we're doing in that month and what we can achieve in the two missing weeks. What do you think about this? Because my fear is that if we do the day after a 2 hour session of grooming the issues and grooming, maybe we will end up uh, tagging wheels, desiderata. I don't know how to say in English. Something that we will do, we will like to do, but then in the end, the release will be very different, because what we observed since we reshaped the whole release process is that at the start, what we plan to do at the start of the month during the days changes a lot, and so at the end of the month, at the middle of the month, when we release, things are pretty different to what we imagined 1 month before. So maybe doing in the middle, in this time window, will be something better. Just my 2 cents.
What does everybody else think about that?
I agree with Leo. I don't know if in the middle, I mean 2 weeks later or just 1 week later, maybe. But I think
Yeah.
we have to test this.
Yeah, I mean,
do a try.
I don't know if a week works or 2 weeks works. For sure, three will not work.
Sure, 3 weeks.
But also 1 day after can be very, I don't know how to say. Uh, Imagine the situation. We released Falco 024. The day after, we have a bunch of issues, no new work done. We don't have any issue. Maybe we released 0.24.0. We committed some mistakes. We introduced some bugs, but community had not time to report back those bugs to us that maybe we would like to solve in the 0.15, 0.2050, 25, sorry. So we need to give some time also to the community to try out that version. I'm saying this also because if when I observed the statistic of downloads of Falco from Bin3, and I observed that usually the time for the community pickups a new version is 1-2 weeks. If we release in the middle of the month, at the start of the month after, community is starting to use that release. So there's like a pillow, a time window that community uses to keep up, to update Falco to the new version that we released 2 weeks before. This is the main ratio, the main reason that made me think about this.
So I have a proposal that I think is a happy medium between both 1 week and 2 weeks. So right now the July 16th is a Thursday, which is the day after these Wednesday calls.
Yeah.
Do we always do a release on the same day of the week, or do we just pick a number, like the date?
No, we pick the date, 16 of the month, every month.
Okay. So my question would be, would it make sense to pick a day of the week and then make a rule that says something like, we do the release on the second Thursday and we do the review on the last Thursday, instead of picking a date? Or would that just confuse things even more? And that way we can schedule meetings based around this meeting on how we do the release itself as well as the planning.
It can work to me. I mean, I have no preferences about having dates or days. My point was just, Chris, about having a window time to let the community try out the new release, and also the maintainers understand if there's something that we want to fix before proceeding with new features. I mean, not blindly planning something that maybe we cannot do because we introduce some bugs, some more high priority things that we need to fix as soon as possible. So my point was just about having a window. So if we want to pick a date like the second Monday, I don't know, and then a week after the grooming session, it sounds good to me.
Do we want to do, So do we want to keep the Wednesday calls independent of the release and the release planning? Or do we want to replace the Wednesday calls with the release and the release planning?
This is a good question. I would keep them independent because sometimes it happened that for various reasons, we had to skip weekly calls, and maybe we don't want to skip grooming session. I don't know. Sorry, I don't have an answer. I have to think about it, about this.
Okay.
In my opinion, we could replace it because if they are very near, we will talk about the same thing. Because we will talk about things that are released and what we want to implement for the next release. So
I
maybe it's
agree.
convenient.
And I think that would also, if people are already planning on joining this call, I think that will also help enable people to get more involved with the processes. So maybe the Wednesday in the middle of the month, we do 2-hour release, or we do a 1-hour release call, and that's the day we cut the release. And then 2 Wednesdays later, we do a 2-hour call that starts an hour early, where we do a review and planning after there's been some time for the community to review issues, to open up bugs, and the maintainers to evaluate how the previous release has been going. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Laura, what do you think about?
I am very confused. Need to think about it because I value the fact that we need to do the meeting after just to look back. But I don't really know when because every release is different. So the thing that I will do is to add a point to the release MD so that when people release the current release, they at their discretion, this is what I will do, think about it in my 2 feet. They at their discretion put a meeting on the calendar after they finish everything in the release. One of their last task is to put a meeting in the calendar for everyone to look back and see how the release did. But I don't know if I will do it always like 2 weeks after, or 1 week after. I will just let them decide when they finish doing the release.
In that case, would it make sense to have a second document like the one we're looking at, but for each release that we push to the community repo? And that document can mention the owner of the release, the review, the notes, anything that has happened, and the days and the meetings and everything else?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I think that I like this idea a lot. And I think that if we decide this, what we should do to make it happen, because we easily forget, we could easily forget this, is to basically just add it here, right? So pre-release checklist. First things first, create the document with your names and with this template. And in the end, remember to remember to set up the call and
set up a meeting to use that discretion for 1 week later at least, or 3 days later, things like that.
Because the problem with the releases is that we do it only once a month, and maybe since you don't always do the releases, maybe you do it like 3 times a year or 4 times a year yourself, and it's easy to forget what's the process.
Okay. Yeah, that works for me.
Taking notes.
Okay. And I have to, I will have the volume very loudly, but I have to get ready to take the my car to the dealership here. So if anybody needs me, I'll be listening, but it might take me maybe 10 seconds to come back and respond.
No worries. I think you finished your points.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Next one, it's Leonardo and I. Yeah, as I was saying with the bidirectional Falco outputs and gRPC API that fixes the CPU usages. We also sync the client Go, and ideally before releasing 0.24.0, we should also sync client Rust and client Python. If anyone is looking for a contribution there, which is also easy to do because it's basically translating from Go and translating for Python for Python. I would love to help and help anyone else contributing there. Otherwise, we will do it.
Yeah.
Next thing, Leo, you want to add something?
No. I just want to invite anyone in this call or also in Slack to write some Python and Rust. Just that.
Okay.
If no one else is doing it, you can put my name on the Python one.
Oh,
But,
thank you, Spencer. I love you.
I only have so much time for Falco these days, so.
Thank you.
Thanks, Spencer.
Let-
Also, it should be if you can add it for me.
Yeah, I'll add it. No worries.
Spencer, just so that you remember, now we have Unix socket.
Yeah, so no SSL.
Yeah, so so you don't need to do all the SSL dance before contributing this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was probably one of you that wrote it, but the docs in the website for getting, I don't know if it was EasySR RSA based or just, it was really easy. That whoever wrote those docs on how to generate SSL certificates for this actually did a great job. So shout out to whoever did that.
It was me, Leonardo and I. I just want to tell you, since it requires some work to do the certificates and everything, if you use the Unix socket, it's gonna be 100 times easier just to start Falco and not having to deal with that stuff.
And anyway, we are here. We're here to help. Any doubt, anything, just ping us, and we will be glad.
And for reviews or for help, I mean, we can also do a call and look at what is there together if you are stuck. Don't give up because you don't understand something. What else?
What else?
Again, Leonardo and I sync Falco website docs with the new bidirectional Falco output gRPC API. Again, this was a very huge pull request and set of changes for Falco, so we also needed to change the documentation. I think that there are still some documentation changes to do, but this is enough for releasing. So if you, Leonardo, you want to add something again, I let you talk. Sorry.
No, Laura, it's okay. Go on.
Next point. I think we have Jonah here.
Yeah, we have him.
Sorry for having you to wait until the last item. So, as Chris was mentioning, we have the CNCF, for paying our resources. They offer us the packet cluster and everything. A while ago, while approaching the need of having, a Kubernetes cluster and other resources from the CNCF, they, of course, wanted us to be on the packet cluster because it's what they provide as, first thing, and that's where they want us to be. Because everything needs to be consolidated because the CNCF is a big entity and they prefer to pay only one bill, in my opinion. So we were on AWS before, and for some things, Prow, which is the tool that we use for automation, is a lot better integrated with AWS. Like now we cannot run Prow jobs anymore because we don't have S3. We cannot do other things. That's basically it. We also have to maintain this cluster, and we didn't have to do it before because it was just AKS. So talking with Jonah privately, we found out that AWS could help the Falco project getting credits to run again on AWS without having anyone to pay for that. And we are here to discuss this with the community and to understand if everyone else here wants us to proceed and what do they think about that, because it's not, you know, a decision that Jonah, Leonardo, and I make. It's a common decision between everyone here in the community and other maintainers. So before sending the request to, you know, the entity at Amazon that process the credits giving, if I'm using the right wording, we want to discuss this with the community. Ultimately, having the credit doesn't mean that you're going to migrate everything, you know, the day after. That will require, you know, planning, we require resources, we require, you know, of course, other documents and, you know, talks in the community so that we can move after and, you know, decide on the move. So we want to split the, you know, the thing in two. First, we want to, the goal is to have an infrastructure on AWS so that we can also test, because most of our users are on Amazon Linux, on AKS, a lot of them, and even just having a cluster where we can, you know, tell Falco to run tests, to like create a cluster and run once we have the test grid that we really wanted to create, we can have it. So it's multiple goals. We can move Pro there. We can just use for testing. Can do many things. But that's, you know, phase 2. I think the first thing we need to focus for first is, do we want to get those credits or not? And then we can decide what to do with them. But with, of course, knowing at least before, you know, requesting credits, that we have some real goals for them if we decide to take them. What does everyone think? John, if you want to add something, I just try to explain everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think you summed it up pretty well. We work with Sysdig, which is Falco's parent company, a lot, and they we work pretty closely with them, so we know that they run on AWS, and we can file a separate sort of thing to get Falco Sandbox credits. So we could get you like $1,000 a month to run EKS clusters to test and stuff. So, or I mean, you could do whatever you want with them, but hopefully it would be for testing or something, or building. It wouldn't just be to like.
Yeah, in the end, I believe that at some point, we will need to end up in a situation where we can integrate with, you know, the major cloud providers like, you know, Amazon, IBM Cloud, and, you know, GKE and all the others, so that we can integrate and understand if Falco works in all those before releasing. So, you know, that's one of the points. That we don't have it, right? Because like sometimes it breaks on IBM Cloud, sometimes it breaks on AWS. It doesn't really break a lot on IBM Cloud because Spencer works with us a lot. But
Yeah.
we also want to have that with Amazon. We also want to have that with Google. We also want to have that with all the cloud providers, because we want a user, when they start Falco in their chosen cloud provider, to just have it working without having to, you know, basically send bad words at us via Slack messages. I'm joking, never happened, just. But that is the first goal. The other goal is if Prow, the other goal is Prow, right? And
Yeah.
you know, in general, our Kubernetes cluster, we can keep it on the CNCF cluster. We can just add, we can just have another cluster on AWS for other things. This is another whole topic. I think that if we get the credits, at least we will use them to build the test grid and, you know, execute the testing parts that needs AWS on it. And we also would like to do that with, I mean, if we do that, we should also create a plan to do that with the other cloud providers too, so that we can have a very definitive stance on, hey, we work on AWS, hey, we work on IBM Cloud, hey, we work on GKE, hey, we work on, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this whole conversation actually began between AWS and Falco. because we were talking about Prow. So AWS has been using Prow now for a while, and the EKS team is, and there's been some initiatives to try to figure out better ways to get software verified on EKS. So I'll share this with you. So this is an example link here. That's a Prow repo that uses only AWS components as backend. So it strips out all the GCS stuff out of there. And so I've submitted a PR back to the repo fixing a few things. But I'm working on a documentation one right now, another PR back to test infra.
Lore, can you open the link, please?
In
the chat, in the Zoom chat.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So
I'm the worst.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm the worst.
If Prow is your goal, it does all work on EKS and S3. So you can see like there's pod info, build logs, job history. All these things actually work on S3 and AWS components. So if you take a look at this specific job, you can take a look at the different plugins. Like you can go look at the job pod info and the job history and all of these work here.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is something that we are not able to achieve anymore. So yeah, we would love to do this again.
Yeah. I was just saying, with the credits, if Prow was kind of your end goal, all the stuff does work with like using only AWS components. You could set up get Falco back into a better testing state with Prow, with the credits. I mean, that's ultimately the goal, is to help out Falco. So, because you guys, a lot of our customers use Falco.
Yeah. Thanks for proving that it works very well on AWS. I had no doubt on that. In fact, we were using it before on AWS again. But then, it was on the SysDig account you had to migrate. So my question is for the community, what do we want to do? We want to ask for those credits and then make a plan on testing out Prow and eventually moving it? Or we want to just not take this opportunity and
I'm all in for taking the credits because we have Prow, because we can have a lot of things that we need a lot EKS and the credits for that Amazon gently could give us to improve the experience end users have installing Falco or building it or running it to make it more seamless experience. So I vote yes, +1.
I vote strong yes, not only for the credits but also for Prow, because honestly, I've been maintaining, managing, setting up and writing books and articles and blogs about Kubernetes clusters and the joys of running them in production. And if we can offload that to a service that does this every day, and that's what they focus on, I am completely sold. Right now, we're already facing issues with how did Nova set up the cluster with kubeadmin? How do we handle TLS? Right. Like, if we can move this to EKS, please God, like let's do it. Like let's do it yesterday, because we do not have time to be setting up a bare metal cluster just so that we can like GitHub, right?
Okay, so if everyone agrees, I know that at least Chris and I have plans on doing sessions on getting documentation for our current cluster and everything. I will put that work on hold. And instead of dedicating time to that, I will prefer to follow up with AWS on this stuff so that we get this in a shape where we can migrate back to AWS for Prow and maybe use the CNCF nodes for other cool things.
Yeah, we could use those nodes for the playground,
for kernel buildings.
for other things. A lot of things.
Yeah.
Is everyone okay with that?
That works for me. I would still like to have a meeting, with us and anybody else who's interested about the new EKS cluster.
Yeah.
So if we could just replace the meeting we were going to have after I get back from vacation with a community meeting, maybe Jonah can join us just to set up the EKS cluster. That would be ideal for me.
that's okay. It's yeah, we can do that. We can just, you know,
Yeah, we will follow up.
we can just have a meeting after we have the credits and the account, so that we can just go there all together and have a party by creating the cluster.
Yeah, definitely.
Go
And
back.
ultimately, with the credits too, you could probably set up more. I think you could easily run like 3 clusters or 2 clusters as well, if you want any sort of differences. So
That's great.
Thank you very much, Jonah.
Thank you. So, okay, I'll handle the meeting bonanza for everyone, and talking with Jonah, if everyone is okay with. By I mean me and. Okay, this was very productive. Thanks.
Yeah, Horowitz had Donut had to leave, unfortunately, but
Yeah, it's very sad. Leo, can you just write down that we decided to go ahead with these and, you know,
Yep.
just add action items for me so I
Sure.
can close the call?
no
Thanks.
worries, no worries. No worries.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jonathan. Thanks, everyone. Who wants to be the MC next call?
I'll do it.
Okay, great. Again, just a reminder that the next release is on July 16th. It's 2024-0. And Leonardo Donato and Leonardo Grasso are the release masters, and they are taking care of everything this release. We are gonna probably have the first grooming with this release. And thanks everyone for joining. See you next week.
Okay. Also, a heads up, I will be out on vacation next week, so I'll see everybody in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Ciao.
Take
See you
care.
very soon.
Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Ciao.